Hey, what's up, guys? On the side of truth here. So I want to get right into the dream that I had, and I think what I'm going to do is explain it the best I can, and then align it with biblical reference, and then just kind of go from there. So before I start, the day before, I got down on one knee and I prayed to God and said, God, can I please have confirmation of Joshua's dream that he had and what he is saying, because I want to be in alignment with your word, the living word. So God, like I said, I was down on one knee and just cried out to him and asked for that. Well, that night, which was really interesting, so I want to go ahead and say this too. I don't know what my deal is. I can't seem to remember things when I have dreams and visions and things like that. Sometimes I just don't remember them. But anyway, so I asked God also to help me remember it, which I thought was kind of funny. But anyway, I went to bed like normal, and it first started off where I was in a great dining room, and there was a huge table that was already set. It was a beautiful silver and gold pieces all over the table, as far as like being, the dining room table being set. And it was beautiful. No one was sitting there yet, but this is the first scene that I saw where things were set on the table. So immediately from that, it switched to being in the same dining room with the table being set, and then people were coming to gather around the table. And as they were coming, everybody was sitting, and being really like cheerful and joyful. And then what was interesting is at the end of the table, the head of the tables, the bride was down on the other end of the dining room table and was completely dressed in white. I thought that was interesting. And then I was on the other end of the dining room table for some reason, not sure why, but we were all sitting. And at that point, somebody came in who I'm going to refer to as the big boss. He came in, and what he looked like was the beast from Beauty and the Beast, and it was a silhouette of him. It wasn't clear. It was just kind of like a shadow, like I said, like a silhouette. And he had some minions with him, and they sat at the table, but he didn't, which I thought was interesting. And he was just kind of wandering around and roaming around, looking at people as they were sitting at the table, and they didn't want to upset him for some reason, which I thought was kind of weird and unusual. So from there, there was that whole scene, and then it switched to a different scene to where I was at a warehouse, and inside the warehouse I was in an office, and it was dark outside, and you could just I had a sense that the warehouse was not a good place. Like crime was going on there, something was going on that was not good. And the big boss that I referred to earlier, the Beauty and the Beast silhouette, ran this whole operation at the warehouse. So at that point, I was standing in the office, and when I was standing in the office, in front of me to my left was a guy that was sitting down in front of a computer at a desk, and he was just typing, just steadily typing. And all of a sudden, these 3 SWAT team members stormed in the office, and at that point is when everything changed for me. Instead of looking at it from a dream perspective, being outside of the dream, I was actually in the dream. I was standing in the office, literally, and when they stormed in, everything paused, which was absolutely crazy because this has never happened to me. And the guy behind the computer that was typing stopped typing, and he turned his head like this, and he said, 9 days. Turned his head back and started typing. From there, the scene switched to where I was standing on the beach shoreline, and it was kind of dark outside, which was kind of odd. And it wasn't like a dark like night, it was just kind of dark. But when I looked up in the sky, I saw that the sun was being blocked, and it was like almost like the crescent moon, kind of, when they look at the Feast of Trumpets for 2 days, they see a sliver of that to say that they've seen the new moon, the Jewish community. And that's kind of what I saw from that perspective. And then from there, it switched right back to being in the office, and then everything unfroze. And then the SWAT team members started talking, and they said to the guy that was behind the computer, they said, starting from tomorrow, we're going to pull you out in 9 days. Now, I had this dream 13 September. Okay, 9 days from the tomorrow date would be 14 September, and then the 9 days from that would put us at the beginning of the Feast of the Trumpets, which my mind was completely blown at that point. And before I go any farther, I wanted to say, if you remember how I said I asked God to help me remember, well, I had woken up and I did not remember it. And then all of a sudden that image popped back in my head of the guy behind the computer and everything freezing. From that point, it was like a flood entered my head, and I just remembered all of it. It was wild. I wrote it all down, and it's taken me a few days to get to putting this video together. But anyway, back to the dream. So from that, from where the SWAT team came in and they said that to the individual, the scene shifted back to where the dining room table was, but we were not in the dining room. I was actually, I don't know why I'm saying we, but I was actually outside of the building, and the building was on my right, and it looked like a farm, kind of like a farm barn house. It was really interesting, but it was really big and pretty. And then probably about 150 yards in front of me, there were like, I don't know, 7 bushes and then 1 tree to the right, kind of in between the last 2 bushes. Well, there was also a concrete slab on the other side of the bushes and the trees, with a little bench on the right, and in front of that were a set of train tracks. And then all of a sudden, I zoomed in back to where the bench was, and I saw the guy that was sitting behind the computer desk. He was actually the groom to get married. Well, he was sitting there, and a train pulled up, and he turned to the conductor of the train and said, "Are we good?" At that point, the first train where the conductor was, some individuals jumped out and they shot him. Okay, you have to remember, the guy behind the computer, he was a criminal. He was working for the big boss, right? So they shot him, and then they jumped back in the train, and the train left, which I thought was interesting. Well, the scene shifted again back to the warehouse, and the big boss was in there talking to one of the guys that did the shooting. And he looked at the guy, the big boss looked at the guy, and he said, well, at least we didn't use a shotgun, because if we did, he would be dead. And he was warned, which I thought was really interesting. So from that point, the scene shifted again into where I was in a hospital room, and the guy behind the computer, the groom, was getting his legs amputated, and they had cut them off, and they were trying to bandage them up and stuff. And and I saw that, and from there the scene shifted again, and it shifted to the warehouse again. And at that point in the warehouse, the big boss asked one of his minions, I'm not sure, just one of them, I couldn't really make out the faces, but anyway, asked him, he's like, hey, can you take care of this situation that the computer guy created? So you got to remember, the computer guy, so he was actually, I took it as he was actually trying to leave the criminal life, right? He was trying to leave. So he had called in the SWAT team, those 3 members, because something was going on in the warehouse. I don't know what, some illegal stuff that required 2 inspectors to show up. So you had the big boss asking the one guy if he could clean up the mess the computer guy created. And when we were in that scene, and I saw that, when I saw that, the 2 inspectors came in. Well, once the 2 inspectors came in, the criminals in the warehouse, they killed them, and they tried to put them in acid to dissolve them. When that happened, acid splashed out on the one guy that said that he could take care of everything, and his arm had withered up, and his I believe it was his right eye was damaged and withered up and completely blotted out. And then when that acid splashed out on them, all of a sudden those 2 guys just vanished, gone, almost like they had been raptured out. It was really interesting. And then from there, the scene shifted again, and it shifted to me being in a white room. It was just like, I don't know, it was like a room that you would probably, I guess, see at a medical hospital for individuals that need help, like a padded room, but it was not padded. It was just solid white. And there was a surgical table right in front of me, and on that surgical table was a pig that had been mutilated and sacrificed. And then I woke up. So, you know, there's a lot of different scenes. There were 7 scenes total, which I thought was extremely interesting, because the number 7 means completion and perfection for God. And so going back now to talk about certain scenes in the dream and how I think that they are related biblically, are the guy, the beast, the beast that was walking around in the very beginning, looking at people and people not trying to upset him, to me is what's happening now. The devil's prowling around, right, trying to destroy and kill, and people didn't want to upset him, and the wedding had not taken place at that time. We were still waiting. So that was pretty symbolic to me. It was symbolic that the bride was wearing all white, which I thought was pretty interesting. Going to the next scene where I shifted into the office, that was just crazy to me how everything paused. And it reminded me of when, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, when in the Old Testament the sun didn't go down and it stayed day. And I think that was for Joshua to finish defeating, and I can't remember who they were, I'm sorry, but finish that war that he was in, and the day was long. It was almost like the earth stopped spinning and everything was kind of froze, right? So I thought that was very interesting in that regard, and I thought it was interesting too that the guy that got hurt was and his legs cut off, was, to me, he was a criminal, but he was trying to leave the criminal world. He was trying to change, right? Get away from his sin. And when the train pulled up, it was like he was still in sin, and he got left. He got left. And I'm not saying that when the rapture takes place that, I don't know all that. I'm not going to get into all that, but to me it was kind of symbolic that, his legs had got cut off, because after the rapture happens, I believe that, the door is shut at that point. We are cut off. You can call out to Jesus and stuff, but at that point in time, you're cut off from him, and you're going to go through the tribulation. So I thought that was pretty symbolic as well. And I thought it was symbolic as a train, because train, you travel, it came to pick you up and then leave. So I thought that was interesting. And then I want to back up for a second. So in the office, the 3 SWAT team members to me represented, because they said, this is one of the most important things too, and sorry, I have it all written down, but when you make these videos, it's like you have all this information you're trying to get out, and it may come in different weird times, but going back to the office, the 3 SWAT members to me represented God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And they said that to pull you out. And to me, that is in reference to when Paul is talking about, we'll be caught up, harpazoed up into the clouds and the sky. So I thought that was interesting, that it was 3 people and they were trying to help this criminal. So I wanted to go back to there. I'm sorry. Now going back to after talking about the criminal being cut off in the train and all that, the scene where the individuals, the 2 inspectors, were put into acid, to me was the 2 witnesses being raptured out, and the individual that was had gotten hurt from the acid was possibly the second beast in Revelation. I'm not sure. It could be the first beast. I don't know. That one's kind of tricky, but I just wanted to throw that out there. It's kind of what I was thinking. And then the last scene, being in the white room and stuff, it reminded me of in the Old Testament when Daniel had a vision, and I guess I can't pronounce the guy's name, but it was the mini Antichrist that set up himself in the temple and worship or sacrificed a pig in the temple, was basically saying Zeus and all the Greek gods and everything were more powerful than our God. Anchos the Fourth or something, I think is his name. I don't know. I can't remember it exactly, but I wanted to say that. And then the last thing I wanted to go back to, like I said, this stuff just pops in my head, but I feel like it's important to get to the point in the different relations of how it is. And when the beast said that he's lucky they used a shotgun, right, it's because he wasn't killed, right? He was still alive, and he was given a chance, but the computer guy continued to live in sin. That's why he got cut off. Those are just kind of my thoughts. When we have these visions and dreams, we need to try to align it with biblical text. And to me, it was a very powerful vision. Dream. I've never really had anything like that. And to be honest with you, when that whole scene paused and stuff, it was wild to me that happened. But I wanted to come on here and tell you that I believe that the rapture is going to take place. There's just too many other things that are in alignment that we see right now that are going on in the world, and I pray that it does happen because I want it to happen. I'm ready to, I don't know about you guys, but I'm weary. I'm ready to move on and be with Jesus, give him a giant hug. Man, I cannot wait to see what his eyes look like, because, you know, we watch these videos and so many people talk about his eyes and everything, and I can't wait to see him. And what's kind of crazy is I have a tattoo that I just got, and it says, it's from Revelation 19:12 on my arm. It says, his eyes are the blazing fire, or his eyes are like blazing fire, and on his head are many crowns. And I'll just show it up. Well, I can't really twist my arm around here, but you can kind of see it. But you know, I can't wait to see that, and I just want to be with him. And you know, I want everyone that's having these visions and dreams to concentrate on Jesus. Think of Jesus. Don't let people, scoffers, beat you down, even if it's your own family members. You just got to press forward and keep waiting to see Jesus, because I mean, we're going to see him, and we need to live every day like it's our last, right? But you know, don't let people beat you down. Stay strong. That's what we're supposed to do. I know there's a lot of us that are getting weary, but just stand strong in your faith. Put on the armor of God, right? And just maintain, and we'll all get through this. And God bless you, and God bless everybody that watches this video. And well, hopefully we'll see you soon in the clouds. God bless.